Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who will be talking about the album An Evening with Silk Sonic by Silk Sonic, Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars. And I need to tell you, I'm going to have a little bit of a preamble here, but I'm an always positive review, and this is going to be a very positive review of a very enjoyable album. But I almost didn't review it, and I almost didn't even end up liking this album, so I'm going to take you on my journey to the moment of realization. Now, first of all, I like Anderson .Paak. I reviewed his album a long time ago, Oxnard. I got my doctorate in Central California. I used to go to the Target in Oxnard, so I'm happy that someone from the Central Coast is making a difference. Everything since Oxnard I've liked, I've listened to. I don't love it, but I definitely appreciate what he's doing. Bruno Mars, I've just never listened to. From 2002 until 2018, when I started this channel, I didn't really listen to any new music, so I was vaguely aware of Bruno Mars. My kids loved him. They saw him perform at Hershey Park, and everyone always tells me, Sky, do not underestimate Bruno Mars. He's the real deal, man. He can really play all those instruments. He can really perform. In the same way that people will tell you, don't underestimate John Mayer. He's a great guitarist, which he is. Justin Bieber is an amazing drummer, okay? All these things. I understand that Bruno Mars is this very talented, very charismatic figure. But the thing that always bugged me, and I didn't quite understand, and that was my initial hesitation with this project as well, is what's there? What is the essence of Bruno Mars? It seemed to me as an outsider who wasn't paying much attention that he just sort of did exercises in musical forms. So Uptown Funk, his most popular song, when I heard it, I just crossed my arms and said, that's great, but why don't people listen to the real James Brown? Why don't they actually listen to Mr. Dynamite, the hardest working man in show business? Why are they listening to this watered down pop version of this music? A couple years later, he came out with that song, I don't even know the name of it, that was all Teddy Riley, New Jack Swing, and I'm like, why don't people just listen to Belle Biv DeVoe? That's what I listen to. The question is, what is the value of an exercise like this that popularizes older forms, that borrows from it? And does it actually add to it, or is it just stealing from these older forms? In order to explain my real feelings, I think I have to declare myself. I haven't really revealed this to anybody. And first of all, this is satire. Okay, satire, the internet is the best and worst place in the world for satire. Satire is when you exaggerate something for comedic purpose and thereby showing off the flaws of the thing you're making fun of. In this case, the thing I'm making fun of is me, okay? So I didn't tell you guys before my true identity, but I am the gatekeeper of funk. It's true. Who would think that some, middle-aged white dude in Western New York would be the grand arbiter of what is and what is not acceptable as funk music? But there you go. 'Tis I, the gatekeeper of funk, who will go on this channel and go on and on about how Hot Buttered Soul is the Pet Sounds of the 70s, one of the most influential and best albums in the world, yet most people I know not only don't own a copy, don't know the album particularly well. I, who will go blue in the face explaining that we should be talking about James Brown the way we talk about the Beatles, except that James Brown had much more influence than the Beatles did. Me, the gatekeeper of funk, is also the gatekeeper of good soul music and R&B, who will lament, who will stay up at night thinking weird facts like this. I bet in terms of concert tickets, Billy Joel outsells Smokey Robinson 100-1. Maybe I should kill myself. Me, the great gatekeeper, who looks at an album like An Evening with Silk Sonic with its great throwback flow and upbeat rhythms and very clear references to very specific points in funk and R&B and disco. Me, who sits there and crosses his arms and says, oh, this is going to win all the Grammys. Oh, I can already see a whole bunch of people buying this album at Starbucks as a stocking stuffer for their kids at Christmas. Me, Mr. Gatekeeper of modern music as well, who knows that this isn't the best R&B or soul album of the year. That's probably Shelly FKA Dram. Hell, it's not the best R&B and soul album this week. I'd say that belongs to Dijon. You know, there's all this great music coming out here. And the gatekeeper in me, the contrarian, the superior, pretentious jerk that you both love and hate, will sit here and tell you, this is not good. It's not good, even though it sounds good and it's funky and it's fun to listen to, because the older music was better. People don't appreciate the old music, and people are too busy trying to pat themselves on the back for liking this new version of old music that they are completely missing all of the beauty of new music. And then, my moment of clarity. My daughter, you know, she has a teenager, you know, so she has good days, she has bad days. And she texted me, I was picking her up, and she said she had not a great day. And so I went to pick her up. And usually when I pick her up, I take her off to crew practice. Yes, the Gatekeeper of Funk has kids who do crew. You know, I picked her up, and usually I'm listening to whatever I'm going to be reviewing in the car. You know, just, because you know, my daughter's been on the channel before, she likes new music, she likes keeping up with things. My whole family listens to whatever I listen to, you know. And she gets in the car, and I can see her, and she's kind of frowning, and she puts down her backpack, and I didn't tell her what we were going to listen to or what was out, and we're listening to the song, I think it must have been Fly, Fly Is Me, and she just starts smiling, and she just starts dancing. And that's not a thing that she does. She doesn't just start dancing. She just starts dancing, and she starts singing along. And I'm like, do you know the words to this song? And she's like, I don't know the words to this song, but I just know it already. I love it. Is this the new Bruno Mars? And then she's singing, and she's smiling, and she's dancing, and all of a sudden, I realize all of my cynicism is just so wasted. It's so tiring and boring being a cynical contrarian. I should know, I've been it most of my life. And I realized, okay, yes, it should be against the law. You should go to jail if you listen to this album and you haven't spent 1,000 hours with James Brown and Isaac Hayes. I understand that. But hey, listen, I have, so I get a pass. I can actually just listen to this. The gatekeeper can relax, can put down his staff, can let people go across that bridge and just accept that this album is great. It is enjoyable. Yes, it is aping many other forms of music, but it's doing it so well. And this is the thing. Okay, you want to imitate James Brown? You want to imitate Earth, Wind, and Fire? You want to imitate all these great people? You go for it. Are you going to be able to make something good? Something listenable? Hell no. This album is insanely impressive. I'm going to give it a lot of credit. It doesn't do what has bugged me about Bruno Mars, and probably is what is his strength, which is just merging modern pop in with all these older genres. It's just straight funk, soul, R&B, with a little bit of hip-hop as well. At times it's straight imitation, but for the most part it is an interesting synthesis between these. Now, there's a couple of people who are also on this project that need to be mentioned. First and foremost is Demille. Demille? I don't know how you pronounce his name. Her name? I don't know. I don't know who D''Mile is, but they're the co-producer on this album, and this album is an amazingly produced record. So I believe that, you know, Bruno Mars also co-produced it all, but whatever Demille is doing is very clearly here. The other person is the host of the album, Bootsy Collins, and I think this is an essential element to the album. Bootsy Collins, you know, I mean, Soul Power by James Brown, you know, that's Bootsy playing bass. Parliament, that's Bootsy playing bass. Bootsy's Rubber Band, that's Bootsy playing bass. I mean, really, having someone on here, probably the next best person to James Brown himself being on your project, giving it the stamp of approval, is Bootsy Collins. And he's not on here just doing a sort of like, he's on here like 4 or 5 times. And this is part of why I think these kinds of projects are important. And the reason that if I were you and I saw me, the gatekeeper, on the bridge, I'd back up, I'd put my head down, and I'd knock that MFer off the bridge. Okay? And while I'm falling, I'm going, well, actually, okay? Like, whatever brings people to this music is great. And I get it, okay? There's a lot of great things. There's a part of this that's nostalgia, and I have a little bit of a problem with that because music has moved forward. Musicianship of this level has changed. People with this kind of talent make different kinds of music as opposed to this, and that's okay. There's no de-evolution of R&B. There's no de-evolution. There's no degeneracy in pop culture. There's just movement. But still, it is very nice to be able to hear all this come together and come together so well. And in particular, so much of it relies on the charisma between these two singers. There's a funny thing where, I don't know Bruno Mars that well, and I didn't really know that Anderson .Paak was that good of a singer. So I'll see if I can get my dogs here later. My dogs look very different. Like one of them's got really long legs, the other basically doesn't have any legs at all. But they are becoming more and more like each other as time goes on. And like their fur color is changing to the point where you can't tell which one is which. The voices of Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak on this album, there's such a great back and forth. At times you get lost. Like one of these is a sort of up and coming alternative R&B rapper star. The other is so big he was able to headline the Super Bowl, and yet they're able to switch back and forth to the point where it feels like it's just one person. Now, even without my daughter bopping and dancing, and we played the song at dinner. I played the album at dinner last night. Made my kids, we were still redoing the kitchen, so I made them Stouffer's pizza. Living high on the hog here. So while they were eating their Stouffer's pizza, and I was playing the music, we all had to tell my daughter to stop. You can't, you're dancing so much that my son couldn't eat his terrible pizza. She wasn't, it wasn't affect. It's that good, that groovy of an album. But even before that moment, there was a song that did win me over. And that's gonna be my stamp for the album, my example song. Now this is not probably the best song on the album. This is probably not the catchiest. This is not gonna be the biggest hit. But to me, all of the charm of the album is located in the track 777. I'm pointing up there to where I'm going to put a link to the song. What is it that makes 777 so great? The thing I haven't mentioned yet is musicianship. Not just production, not just charismatic singing, but Bruno Mars is playing guitar. Bruno Mars playing guitar. Anderson .Paak is playing drums on the whole project. Okay, so this isn't Clyde Stubblefield. This isn't the greatest drumming in the history of funk. But it's definitely the greatest drumming ever played by a rap artist. It's astoundingly good. And this song, 777, is all based on a guitar riff, a fairly simple guitar riff, and then the way it interacts with the drums. The guitar does what bass often does in funk, except it's just playing this riff, and then the super hard singing going over, and I just have this image of them playing and singing together, and it's an astounding feat of musicianship and production and putting everything together. Lyrically, this album is interesting. I've seen a couple comments on it about the lyrics being empty and bad. It's not true. I mean, you don't listen to funk, soul, and R&B for the lyrics. Sometimes you do. At its best, it's like Smokey Robinson, where the lyrics are just, or Marvin Gaye, the lyrics are just so, they are love songs or heartbreak songs, but they're just so well crafted. It just blows you away. But sometimes it can just be, get up on the good foot, got a brand new bag. It can just be kind of simple. But this song in particular is an ode to Las Vegas, is an ode to gambling. And, it's irresponsible, obviously, because gambling is terrible. It just costs people money, so don't gamble. But still, it doesn't really matter with a song this happy, because I jam out to this song really hard. There's this amazing thing where you realize that at a certain point, there's it's Anderson drumming and Bruno kind of doing this rap singing thing, and it's just two people playing, and yet it's so lush. Anderson has a pretty good verse on here, stacks on stacks, racks on racks, moonwalk to the money like I'm Mike Jack, yes I'm faded, pupils dilated, but the man in the mirror saying go on get your paper, an extended line, an extended reference to Michael Jackson. I think to the credit of this project, it doesn't ever, to me, sound like Michael Jackson, but it quite often sounds like the Jackson 5, which is to say Motown in the 70s. But the thing that makes this song so charming, and the reason that it's my stamp, is that it's kind of a loose, fun jam. Apparently these two guys got together because they were on tour at some point a couple years ago, and we get the sense of these very hardworking musicians, these very hardworking showmen, working together and making a great product. And it's in that effort. It's in that effort that I think we have to recognize that James Brown, you can't efficiently imitate anything that any of these guys did without working insanely hard and being insanely good at your craft. Great little horns in here as well. Okay, I'm gonna go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker than that. I mean, I have the song stuck in my head. That's another thing. Each one of these songs is stuck in my head, is quite poppy. Bum, ba-da, dun it. It begins with Silk Sonic intro and a 1, 2, 3, 4 count, and we have Bootsy's intro. Bootsy Collins gives the intro. What I like about it is he says that he named the band Silk Sonic. I do like this very extended effort to give credit. It's a weird thing because funk music it's just really underrated. It's just really underappreciated. In some ways, it's like jazz music gets more respect in America, even though jazz music doesn't get enough respect either. I mean, funk is this great American creation. And yeah, in the early 90s, you know, when I was listening to G-Funk, you know, whatever, I would download, you know, I would go find the song that had Atomic Dog on it. But still, there needs to be some kind of great American reckoning of funk. Parliament, Isaac Hayes, James Brown, you know, Kool and the Gang. Like, we need to elevate them into the American songbook more than they are. And hey, Gatekeeper, that's what Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak might end up doing. This is how they'll do it. One thing I like is they say right off the top, we're gonna lock this groove in tight, and this album is filled with tight, excellent grooves. Next song, Leave the Door Open. Here's where oh my God, this is cool. This doesn't happen every time. So, you know, I review a lot of music. I hear a lot of songs every week. But now, every time I say the name of a song, the hook of the song actually gets stuck in my head. So when I said Leave the Door Open, when I just said those words, in the back of my head, it went, leave the door open. It's pretty cool. Very Isaac Hayes in the 70s orchestration, the kind of xylophone, kind of an achy, scratchy guitar. The drums are just great throughout, just great muted drums with fills, very catchy chorus. You know, what it reminds me of is even more than Hot Buttered Soul, an album like Black Moses, where it's Isaac Hayes mostly doing Burt Bacharach songs, where just this great songwriting, just the whole idea. This is what I mean by we can look at the lyrics and say they're not very good with the song like 777 because it's devoid of content. But Leave the Door Open is a great message of, you know, hoping that someone will come with you and hoping someone will come between the door. And the back and forth between Bruno and Anderson, between Mars and Paak, is just so easy and so nice. And that's the thing, you know, they are technically a supergroup, right? But the thing is, you know, supergroups have to be fun. And some supergroups don't end up being that way. Like, they don't feel fun. As a rule, supergroups are terrible and they're never any good, I would say. If you had to just say, is a supergroup good? Rock and Roll Circus was bad in the 60s. And that was the Beatles and the Stones, you know? Traveling Wilburys is the worst band of the 80s. So, you know, supergroups are a tricky situation. But when they work like this. Two people just kind of vibing with each other and playing. Great ending these at the end of the song, like a lot of great 70s songs. We have sort of these like very crescendos towards the end with hitting these high notes and then going over la la la. So much happening in the production here, and it even fades out. What I would love, personally, hey, Silk Sonic, if you're doing the whole 70s thing, could you give us like an 11-minute version of this song? Like where it just jams out more? Next, we get to Fly As Me, which is probably my favorite song on the album. God damn, this song is so good. It's just so good. In a way, too, I think we need to credit Kendrick Lamar, not just for most of Anderson .Paak's flow, but for To Pimp a Butterfly, also bringing back the funk aesthetic and sort of leaving a a template for how to use 70s well-produced orchestral funk with hip-hop. I think we kind of see that in a song like Fly As Me. It starts off with this great, very intentional echo, I believe, of Kool and the Gang's Jungle Boogie. This dun, 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 dun. Except what this does is it has a great blah, where it rides at the end of the measure. Just this kind of wah-wah horn blast. Again, the whole song's stuck in my head. It's great. I love Anderson's opening verse, his charisma, and frankly his craft. He's very good at this singing, rapping thing, at creating words, at working with the lyrics. This song really relies on his ability to put forth this kind of cocky, charismatic person. The pre-chorus is essentially a sample of the band The Meters. I mean, it's just it's that song, except without the but then the chorus becomes kind of a Sly and the Family Stone chorus. Like, they just go all over the place without... Okay, this is the real question. If you hate this album, you think it's forced. You think it's inauthentic. You think it's mere imitation. If you like the album, you think it all just works well the way they're able to do it. But what's cool is that in this chorus, they're taking that great riff in the beginning and then singing over it. The second verse is even more sort of overtly hip hop, and then a really fun bridge where they spell everything out, sort of a la James Brown, kind of a call and response, band, let me do something. This just makes you want to see this in concert. Just I'm dying to see it. Like, I don't know if they're touring, but I will do whatever it takes to hear this song in concert. I imagine it couldn't possibly be better. It ends with, I believe, Bruno Mars saying, let me get 3 pieces and a biscuit. Maybe this is a little too affected, a little too much like trying to talk about funk, but I don't know. Again, that depends on your perspective on the project. If you're going to be a gatekeeper or if you're going to be a lover. After Last Night features Bootsy Collins and Thundercat. You'd think with Thundercat, who I like, and Bootsy Collins, who I revere and like, that this would be the best song on the album. It's not. It's kind of like a sex jam. It reminds me a lot of some of Bootsy Collins' music. Cool kind of wah-wah pedal sexiness. I like the ad-libs from Bootsy, but in general, I don't know. The slow jams don't quite do it as much for me. Although I do like the ending, which has kind of this nice kind of climax. I do like the production notes. There's that kind of high 70s, summertime madness style, way up high in the back, which is nice. And then we get to the song Smokin' Out the Window. Okay. First I'm going to talk about the song, then I'm going to talk about my wild conspiracy theory. Did you know that the Gatekeeper also keeps track of wild conspiracy theories? I do. So this song is 70s Motown pop perfection. It's just a great song. It's got a little bit of that hip-hop vibe with kind of a funny verse, got 10 kids running around like Chuck E. Cheese, where the highlight of the entire song is when Anderson .Paak says, she called me Hercules, Lees, referencing the Nutty Professor. Just a great, great groove. Kind of a weird, unexpected usage of the B word here. And then the image is, the songwriting is quite nice because it's this, being betrayed by a woman and smoking out the windows, an interesting idea of being sort of exiled in your own home. It's just so full, it's so well produced, it's so well syncopated. It has that, like the drums are well syncopated and everything else is well synced, right? And it just has such a grand pop, wonderful feeling, while also a lot of humor. It ends with, I hope you get what you need, but I also hope you're barefoot and trifling. Now here's my conspiracy theory. They're on the payroll. Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars are being paid, I assume, by Altadis, Altria, the tobacco company magnate. Maybe, I don't know, by Laura Lard or R.J. Reynolds. There's so many different multinational companies that own everything. But I'm sensing something is happening here in culture. Okay? If I could, I would put behind me a board with the lines. Okay? I think the tobacco companies are getting froggy. They're understanding that they have a lane to get young people smoking again. I really think they do. You know, last year, cigarette sales went up for the first time in 20 years. Everybody's giving up on vaping, but keeping the addiction to nicotine. I really think that there's this underground push. You know, I was watching Joe Budden the other day and he was wearing a t-shirt with the brand cigarette Cool on it. You know he's getting paid for that. And a song like this, and they're all dancing around with the cigarettes, I get it. It all fits in the kind of 70s cool aesthetic. But then also promotional photos, they're smoking. And I'm not crazy. This is what tobacco companies do. I should know. I read this book about the history of tobacco. A very, very good book. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here. These are contracts between Brown and Williamson, you know, the makers of I think Lucky Strikes back in those days, and many other cigarettes, giving Sylvester Stallone $500,000 if he would smoke their products in Rhinestone Cowboy, Godfather 3, which he wasn't in, Rambo 50-50, and Rocky 4. There's contracts like this all over the 80s. The reason why so many people in my generation smoked wasn't because of Bruce Willis, you know? And it was the tobacco companies that were funding this all by making it seem cool. So I'm not saying anything, but just pay attention. Pay attention. If you don't notice more celebrities just smoking, just whatever, as they try to get the young people to go from vaping to cigarettes. Okay, conspiracy theory over. I'm telling you though, they are on the payroll. They're on the payroll. Next song, Put on a Smile. Beautiful, almost kind of a Marvin Gaye style. Ooh, to start. Nice bootsy intro, Ain't No Shame, and Begging in the Rain. And the whole thing feels like one of these songs, the Please Take Me Back, I'm Sorry, Gee, I Love You, You're the Only One Who Could Put a Smile on My Face. Again, with a song like this and Keep the Door Open, when we look down on the lyrics of this album, because sometimes they're overly simplified or they don't seem to have a point, that's not right. You know, a song like this, with this message, you only put a smile on my face, okay, it's basically Tears of a Clown, you know, the Smokey Robinson song, but still, it's a slight change of it, and it's a great theme. And these are themes which don't come through today in most modern music, right? Most modern soul music doesn't have this kind of nuance in their songwriting. Just great drum work as well here. Next song is The Stamp, 777. I already talked about that. Then the song Skate. I almost didn't review this album just on principle because they had a song called Skate. I'm like, okay, I get it. So they're doing the whole retro thing. So they're gonna have a roller skating video, and it's gonna be, oh, it's like, what is this? Stranger Things, the musical? You know what I mean? But it's it's another great song. It's kind of guitar-led, which is nice. I love the back and forth with the singing. And in the end, why not bring back skating rinks? Skating rinks are fun, I assume. I mean, I didn't go to them when I was a kid in the 90s. We didn't have skating rinks. We had 7-Eleven in Woburn. That's what we did for fun. We drove to 7-Eleven and we bought Reese's, and then we drank Snapple, and then we went home. The final song is Blast Off, and I'm a little bit bummed that this is the final song because it's probably the worst track on the album. Maybe it's just me. I hate songs that are invitations to drugs. I just find it creepy, especially when it's a sexy song like this. You know, I took a little something to get here, I have some more, and if you take it, we'll blast off together and get super high. I mean, already, first of all, consent issues are there. I don't mean to be a bring down here, but it's true. You know, there are consent issues there, and also I don't know. I just find it creepy, and I don't like drugs. So a song like this, it feels like the whole album it's kind of right on the line with kind of icky messaging. You know, like the gambling and the smoking to a certain extent, and the sort of womanizing that's implied here. But just this ending it on this whole thing of, hey, why don't you do coke with me or whatever. Molly, whatever it is that they're doing, whatever I've taken, and then we'll get high and we'll be flying above people. It's an awfully sad, hollow ending, I find. But still, the music here is great. I really like Bootsy's outro, the guitar and chorus, like just the way the guitar and chorus go, and they have this beautiful end section, like I was saying, often in 70s soul and funk, you'll have a section towards the end where things reach a kind of instrumental crescendo, and they have all these voices going, and we have to thank DeMilo, we have to thank the production here. For even though it's my least favorite song on the album, it's still quite a good song. And there you go. And the album is about as long as this video. It's a very tight, efficient product that is quite moving and will get you grooving. Listen, I don't have a script. I just have notes, and I swear to God, I did not mean to rhyme moving and grooving, okay? Hey, listen. Hey, Silk Sonic, you rhymed fire and desire in this album, so I get one bad rhyme in mine. So the Gatekeeper is out. Let me see if I can get the dogs here. Dogs! Dogs! Dogs, come here. No, here. All right, fine. You just have to take my word for it. Yeah, you'll have to take my word for it. You cannot tell their fur apart. Maybe I'll put that image on my Twitter or something. Okay, well, until next time, there's the camera.